Okay, so today we'll be doing lesson 2 and 3 in book 6. So you will need book 6, and we will start out with lesson 2. So you're going to need to look through your book, and it is called Truths and Equations. So we will use equations to represent stories and see what it means to solve equations. So for this part, this is the summary, you're just listening. It says an equation can be true or false. An example of a true equation is 7 plus 1 equals 4 times 2, right? So each of them are 8. An example of something that is false, right, would be this 7 plus 1 equals 9. So an equation can have a letter in it. We talked about this last class. And that letter is the variable. And the variable is what is unknown. So if you look at their example there, something plus 1 is 7. Says the equation would be false if u was 3, right? So if we put 3 in right there, 3 plus 1 is not 8. So that would be false. Now, if we put 7 in for u, right? 7 plus 1 is 8, and that would make that true. Okay, so remember that the letter in an equation we call a variable. And what we can do is we can put numbers in for these variables to answer equations. The other thing that is important to know is this word here, coefficient. Now, the coefficient is the number that is next to the variable. So, meaning right here, all right? So 7x. Now, 7x is the same thing as writing 7 times x, right? So, whenever you see let's say it was 6x, what you need to know is that there's technically a multiplication sign in between those. And this is where we start using the dot as multiply, because when you write x as the sign for multiplication, we don't know, well, are we talking about x or are we talking about multiply? So it gets kind of confusing here. So that's why you're going to see a lot of the times we're going to be using the dot from here when we're doing algebra. So just remember that the number that's in front of the variable is called the coefficient. Okay, so, and that coefficient is always multiplied to the number that sits directly next to it. So just some new vocab for you. So 3 letters. Again, my book that I got from the school, they did not have page numbers. So if yours does not have page numbers, you're going to need to look for the lesson that says 3 letters, and it should be toward the beginning of the book. So I have 2-1, 3 letters. That's where you should be in the book. And remember, this is book 6. So the equation a plus b could be true or false. So we're going to answer each of these. It says if a is 3 and b is 4 and c is 5, what is the equation? So we're going to put 3 in for there, 4 in for there, and 5 in for there. And we're going to decide, well, is this true or false? So this one, if I did what it said, that would be 3 plus 4 is 5. Well, is that true or false? And you should know that's false, right? So you're going to write exactly what you see me writing in green. So it says find new values of A, B, and C that could make it true. So there are infinite answers, but the ones that I used are right here. So 1 plus 2 is 3. That makes the equation true. So please write that next to B. C, find new variables for A, B, and C that make it false. So now I need to make a fake one, right? Or one that doesn't make sense. So the one that I wrote down, again, these can be a million different scenarios here, but 4 plus 5 equals 10. I said that one is false. So that should be a plus sign. I don't know why it did that. But 4 plus 5 is 10. That is a false equation. That is not true, right? So now we're going to do the same thing for number 2. It says the equation x times y. So remember I told you that right there means multiply. Equals z, and we're going to decide for true or false, and we're going to follow what it says. So it says if x is 3, so I'm going to write 3, and y is 4, I'm going to put 4, and z is 12. Okay, so I wrote it just like this. I just put numbers in where the variables are. Well, is 3 times 4 12? The answer is yes, that's true. Now we need to find our own value, or we put in our own numbers to make it true. So what I did, and again, these are not the only options, but I just kept it simple. 3 times 5 is 15. That makes that true. Well, now we need to put in numbers that make it false. So I just did 1 times 2 is 3. Well, you know that's not right. That makes it false. Okay, so please have written down everything that I wrote down in green. All right, so now we move to the next section. So I think that you just moved down in your book, but it's called story time. That's where you should be. And it says, here are 3 situations and 6 equations. Which equation represents the situation? So we have, after Elena ran 5 miles on Friday, she had ran a total of 20 miles a week. She ran X miles before Friday. So what you can do is you're just putting the words and you're making an equation. Well, I know she went 5 miles. And I know her total was 20. Okay, so that is just common sense right there, right? But I don't know what she did before Friday, right? So I would do plus X. Okay, so that's what you should write down for number 1. Number 2, Andre's school has 20 clubs, which is 5 times as many as his cousin's school. His cousin's school has X clubs. Okay, well, we know that it's 5 times as many, right? So I'm going to write 5 times as many, and the total was 20. So what I can put there is X. We don't know what the other total is. Sorry, I don't know why it's cutting me out. Now, the other thing I wanted to point out that I did not say, sometimes you will see it written as 5X. Sometimes you will see it written as 5 times X. Regardless of how it's written, there is a multiplication sign that sits in between that, always, just so you know. So Jada volunteers at the animal shelter. She divided 5 cups of cat food equally to feed 20 cats. Each cat received X cups of food. So it's kind of reverse, right? So we have 20, right? 20 cats, and each cat, they got 5 cups. Okay, so then what we don't know is this little X. It's 5 times, right? Or X amount of food, however you want to look at it. So everything I have in green, you should write down for 1, 2, and 3. And then we are moving on to lesson number 3. Okay, so lesson 3, it says staying in balance. I don't have page numbers because the book doesn't have page numbers. So I need you to find what says staying in balance. Let's use balanced hangers to help us solve. Okay, so here's what you need to know. Here's how Khan Academy is going to be tonight or today. You're going to see these type of hangers, right? This is what we call hangers, and these are balanced equations. So a couple things that I do want to say is a hanger stays in balance when both sides weigh the same. So for example, B, let's say that this was 3. That triangle was a weight of 3. Well, because that is balanced, think of a scale, right? And think of it balancing. For B, what would make that true or balanced is if each of these squares was worth 1. Because 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3. And then this side is 3. So that keeps things in balance, right? That's what I mean by that. Now we can change the weight of the hanger and it can stay the same as long as we do it to both sides. So that's what's going to help you solve equations, right? This little visual. Okay, so equations work just like this. We can change the equation, but it needs to be done to each side. So let's just say I wanted to multiply this triangle and I wanted to make 2 of them, right? So I wanted to do 2 of those now. And the original weight of the one triangle was 3. Well, 3 and 2 of them make 6, right? So 3 times 2 is 6. Well, if I did that to the left side, I need to do that to the right side, right? So I would need 1, 2, 3 because you're doubling, right? On the right. Well, 3 times 2 is 6. So take note how they're equal, right? That's the key to what we're going to be doing. So they need to stay equal. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. Now, this one here, that is not a balanced equation. That's not what we want. So when you have the incorrect answers, you have an unbalanced hanger. That's kind of the scenario that they're setting up for you in your book. So we will match equations and hangers. So you're on lesson 3. We're moving over to what says match equations and hangers. So please find that page, and it looks just like what you see here. So 3.2, match equations and hangers. All right, so match each hanger to an equation. Complete the equation by writing X, Y, Z, or W in the empty box, okay? So we're looking at these, and it says something plus 3 is 6. Okay, so we're going to look at these, and we're going to decide which one is which, right? So this first one is actually going to be B, right? So I'm going to just write a B right there. You could write that too. So it's something plus these 3 equals 6 boxes. Okay, so that's how I knew it matched that one. Okay, now I'm just going to move right over. 3 times something makes 6. Well, looking at these, the only one that it could possibly be is A, because that has 6 ones along the right. So the hanger has to match the equation. If there's 3 of something on one side, there should be 3 of something in your equation. Okay? So now we move on to the next one. 6 equals something plus 1. Well, the only one that matches this 1, right, is going to be that one right there. So that equation matches hanger D. And then obviously process of elimination, you know that one's C. But take note, there's 6 of these and there's 3 Z's, right? The other thing I want to point out that is very crucial to solving equations when we get there is notice how on each side the variable is always on one side. So it's on one side, one side, one side. Variables cannot be on both sides, which will be important later. All right, so now I kind of copied and pasted here, and we're going to answer number 2. So we're going to find a solution, right? Well, this is easy. Something plus 3 makes 6, right? So you know that's 3. So I'm going to just write 3 plus 3 equals 6. So that matches that equation. Okay. And then the next one, 3 times something makes 6. Well, you know that. 3 times 2 makes 6. So that matches that one. Okay. Now something plus 1 makes 6. Well, you know that's 5. So I'll write it like this. 6 equals 5 plus 1. That would be that equation. Okay, and then this last one, 6 equals 3 times, well, you know that's 2, right? So 6 is 3 times 2. Okay, so just write what I have in green, and I just answered them all. Very easy. So now you're going to go to the last section, and this is going to be it. So we're going to do A and B. So connecting diagrams to equations and solutions. So section 3. Connecting diagrams to equations and solutions. Here are balanced hangers. Each piece is labeled. We're going to do all 3 for A and B. Okay, so for A, it says, write an equation. Okay, well, I know that it's going to equal 8 because of this 8, right? Now, what's going to happen is when you see something an X and a 3, and they are separate the way that they are, that means to add. Okay, so I'm going to put x plus 3 is 8. That's my equation. Then it says, explain how to reason with the diagram and the weight of to find the weight, of a piece with a letter. So you know that you can do 8 minus 3, and that will give you what's missing, which is 5, which is what most of you would do. Some of you mentally know, well, 5 plus 3 is 8, that works too. So either one that you want to write is good. Now it says, explain how to reason with the equation to find the weight of each letter. So what you need to know is that technically speaking, I would subtract 3 from each of these sides. That's what we're going to learn very soon. So I'm just going to say subtract 3. Okay, that's what I want you to write for now. And what I mean by that is right here. You can take what's known and subtract them. You would do the opposite operation, right? Just like if I were to say 6 plus something makes 8. Well, you're like, you could do 8 minus 6 to get 2, right? Or you can just mentally know that. But the numbers aren't always going to be where you can mentally know that. So you need a strategy. That's what we're going to be learning next class. All right, so this is our last one here. So first we need an equation. Well, I see a 12. So I know that 12 is going on. And take note that this line, that's your equal sign. That is always going to be your equal sign. Well, I see 2 y's. So 2 y's 2 times, right? So that means, remember I said that there's technically a multiplication sign in there. And then now we need to solve it. So, well, what makes 12? 2 times what makes 12, right? So you technically could do 12 divided by 2 to get 6, right? Or you can mentally know, well, 12 is 2 times 6, right? But this is the way that you're going to be doing it when the numbers aren't as nice. So we technically could divide each side by 2. I'm just going to write divide by 2. Okay? So you're going to turn in your notes and then we're going to start practicing some of this.